Your brain is so cooked by reels that I'm going to explain how artificial intelligence could transform warfare using cats. Because apparently, a cat understands military technology better than you do. Imagine the battlefield a few years from now. You don't necessarily have a pilot inside the aircraft. You don't have a soldier manually controlling every drone. You don't have someone staring at every camera feed for every second of every mission. You have machines, hundreds of them. They see, they share information, they track targets, they calculate routes, and some of them can execute parts of a mission with less and less human intervention. Welcome to automated warfare, and one of the companies sitting right in the middle of this transformation is Anduril. The company was founded in 2017 by Palmer Luckey, the same guy who became famous for creating the Oculus Rift. Yes? The guy who helped build virtual reality headsets for gaming ended up building military drones and battlefield systems. Apparently, the natural career path from make video games more immersive is make war more automated. Anduril develops drones, surveillance systems, sensors, command and control software, and a platform called Lattice. And that's where things get interesting. Lattice is designed to act like a digital nervous system. It can take information from radars, drones, cameras, sensors, and other platforms. Then it combines that information into a shared picture of what's happening across the battlefield. In other words, instead of 10 operators staring at 10 different screens, you try to put everything into one digital brain, and that brain can track objects, coordinate systems, distribute tasks, and connect different machines across the network. Now, think about what that means. In the old model, someone sees a drone. Then they figure out what they're looking at. Then they contact someone. Then someone gives an order. Then another operator carries out the order, and while everyone is doing paperwork with bullets flying around, the target is moving. Automation is supposed to compress that entire process. Detect, classify, decide, act, faster, much faster. And that's the real product. It's not just the drone, it's speed. Because on a modern battlefield, whoever sees first can act first. And whoever acts first may destroy the other side before the other side even realizes what's happening. Now you're probably thinking, so the AI is going to start killing people by itself? Slow down. Little science fiction hairball. Reality is more complicated. Not every autonomous system means a machine is independently deciding who should die. There are different levels of autonomy. A machine can navigate by itself. It can identify objects. It can track a target. It can recommend an action. It can execute a mission that was already authorized. And there is a massive difference between that and giving an artificial intelligence complete authority to decide who gets killed. But that's exactly where the problem begins. The more machines do on their own, the less time humans have to intervene, and the faster warfare becomes, the harder it becomes for a human being to keep up. Imagine hundreds of drones appearing at once. You have one operator, then 10, then 100. The problem stops being, how do we control one drone? It becomes, how do we control a swarm? And that's where companies like Anduril are trying to change the game. The company's Ghost X, for example, is described as an autonomous, modular aircraft platform capable of operating in environments with limited connectivity. It can carry different sensors and payloads and has been selected for U.S. Army requirements. In other words, the drone doesn't necessarily have to wait for a human to pilot every turn like a remote control toy. It can have its own navigation and mission capabilities. Now multiply that by dozens or hundreds of units. You start getting a completely different concept of warfare. It's no longer send the aircraft, it's send the system. And the system coordinates the pieces. One drone watches, a radar detects, another drone tracks, another relays information, another performs a specific task. Everything connected, everything coordinated, everything moving incredibly fast. It's basically an anthill with a military budget. except the ants have sensors. And some of them carry explosives. And here's where things get genuinely frightening. Military technology doesn't sit still. Today you have drones operated by humans. Tomorrow they can work in semi-autonomous teams. Then you have systems selecting routes. Then systems identifying threats. Then coordinated swarms. And eventually the question stops being, what can the machine do? It becomes, what are we willing to let the machine decide? That's a huge difference. Because an algorithm making a bad recommendation in an app is annoying. An algorithm making a bad identification on a battlefield is catastrophic. A sensor can fail. A camera can be fooled. A system can receive incomplete information. A machine can misclassify a target. And if it's operating at a speed humans cannot match, who takes responsibility? The programmer, the commander, the manufacturer, the government, the cat who pushed the button? We don't have a comfortable answer. And this isn't just a joke. It's one of the biggest debates surrounding autonomous weapons. Now, hit like and follow Paws of War, you tiny sofa philosopher. Because here's something even more ridiculous. Military AI doesn't need to be perfect to transform warfare. It just has to be faster, cheaper, or more scalable than the previous system. That's the point. A country doesn't necessarily need to build 10,000 expensive fighter jets if it can produce hundreds of thousands of cheap drones. It doesn't need a pilot in every aircraft. It doesn't need soldiers everywhere. It can put machines there. Machines don't sleep. They don't ask for vacation days. They don't complain. They don't need food. They don't suffer combat fatigue. And they can be produced at scale. That last word matters, scale. Industrial warfare has always been a production competition. Who can build more tanks, more aircraft, more ships, more ammunition? Now add more drones, more sensors, more autonomous systems, more software. And software is especially interesting because an entire fleet can sometimes receive new capabilities through updates rather than being completely rebuilt. Change the code, add a function, improve the system, and suddenly an entire military fleet has a new capability. It's basically a battlefield software update. And you miserable little military strategist who learned everything from Call of Duty, are probably thinking, so AI is going to replace every soldier? Not necessarily. War still needs humans. Someone has to set objectives. Someone has to establish rules. Someone has to maintain infrastructure. Someone has to make political decisions. Someone has to accept responsibility. But the number of humans needed for certain tasks could decrease. And that is a massive change. Think about a border. Before, watchtowers, soldiers, patrols, helicopters. Now you can have radars, cameras, drones, acoustic sensors, software, AI, and humans concentrated only on situations the system can't resolve. That completely changes the concept of surveillance. And that's the kind of ecosystem Anduril is trying to build. Not just one machine, a network. An architecture where sensors, drones, radars, and human operators can share the same picture of the battlefield. And this has a horrifying consequence: psychological distance. When a soldier looks at another human being, there is a person standing there. When an operator looks at a dot on a screen, there is an icon. And when an AI identifies an object, there is just a classification: person, vehicle, drone, threat. That can make war easier to execute. And that may be exactly why it can also become easier to start. Because pressing a button from the other side of the world is psychologically very different from standing 10 feet away from someone. Now imagine that at industrial scale. You don't send 10 soldiers, you send 1,000 drones. You don't send one aircraft, you send 20. You don't ask, who is going to pilot them? You ask, how many can we put in the air? That's the transformation. Automation turns warfare into a problem of software, logistics, and production. And that could benefit whichever country has the best algorithms, the best chips, the best sensors, and the industrial capacity to manufacture the machines. So the AI military race isn't just a military race. It's a technology race. That's why the United States, China, Russia, and other powers are investing heavily in artificial intelligence, drones, and autonomous systems. Whoever dominates this technology could gain an enormous advantage. But there is a problem. Once everybody has the technology, the advantage disappears, and warfare gets even faster. You build a system that reacts quickly. The enemy builds another one. You increase autonomy. They increase autonomy. You build larger drones. They build smaller swarms. You build anti-drone defenses. They build drones designed to overwhelm those defenses. Congratulations. You just created an arms race where the primary soldiers are machines, and the humans are sitting behind screens arguing about whether the algorithm should have selected target number 7. That isn't science fiction. It's one possible direction of modern warfare. And maybe the most frightening question isn't, when will AI dominate the battlefield? It's, when will the battlefield become too fast for humans to control? Because if one machine can detect in seconds, another can respond in seconds. Another can retaliate in seconds. You start building a system where speed can beat judgment. And in war, that's a recipe for disaster. The promise sounds wonderful. Fewer soldiers exposed, more precision, lower costs, faster response, greater efficiency. Beautiful. Until someone asks, what happens when the system gets it wrong? Because it will get it wrong. Every system fails. The real question is, how much damage happens before anyone can turn it off? And maybe that's the strangest future of warfare. It won't necessarily be giant humanoid robots walking around with machine guns. It could be much simpler. A swarm of small drones, cheap, connected, autonomous, receiving data from a network of sensors, flying without a pilot, planning routes without a pilot, coordinating without a pilot, and a group of humans somewhere saying, looks like it's working, until it doesn't. Because when warfare becomes software, a bug can come with a body count. And while the biggest cats are funding artificial intelligence to build the next generation of military machines, you're sitting there counting coins for a fish-flavored leftover pouch. Your taxes fund tactical scratching posts, autonomous drones, intelligent radar, guided lasers built to blow up street cats, and little milk saucers for the elite of Epstein Island. Meanwhile, you wag your little tail at the ballot box and elect the same parasites who promise security while turning every new technology into another opportunity to sell war. You'll probably defend the billionaire making money from it. You'll argue about him online. You'll call the other cat an idiot. And while the rich cats build machines that can fight without them, you keep paying to watch the fight. That's the real automated future. The machine may not need to replace humanity. It may simply make humans more distant from the consequences of their own decisions. And once nobody has to look the enemy in the eye anymore, killing can become as easy as clicking. So subscribe to Paws of War, you little cardboard drone operator. Because the next military revolution doesn't need giant robot soldiers. It can be quiet, it can be cheap, it can be automated, and it may be flying over your head before you even notice. In the end, the machine doesn't have to want war, it just has to receive the order. And that's the detail that should scare you more than any robot. The machine may learn how to fight, but the cat teaching it why to fight is still human.